watching Stella's Meza. On today's episode, I will teach you how to make a form of a donut from Kenya or East Africa that's very popular in Kenya and Tanzania called a Mahamri. Now, Mahamri is basically a donut that has some coconut milk in it, and it is delicious. Now, it can be eaten for breakfast with a cup of tea, or there's a legume called baazi, which is actually just a black-eyed peas cooked in coconut milk that you can eat it with, or you can just eat it as a snack throughout the day. So to make this, I will show you what you need. For the essential equipment, you will need a frying pan. This is a wok, and fill it with like 2 cups of cooking oil. I use canola oil. You'll need a sieve to sift your flour. You will need a strainer to put the Mahamris into and pull them out of the oil. You will need mixing bowl. You will need a rolling pin. You will need a knife or a pastry cutter. All right, now to make this, you will need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, sifted, and then you will need a pinch of salt, which is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You will also need 3/4 teaspoons of rapid rise highly active yeast. That's what I use. And then you will need 7 to 8 level tablespoons of granulated sugar. Now it depends. If you like your Mahamris a little bit sweeter, you could add up until 10 tablespoons. And then you'll need 2 cups or less of coconut milk. Now if you find that you don't have enough coconut milk to reach the 2 cups, you can add a little bit of milk in there. Now make sure it's heavy coconut milk. Okay, you'll also need some clear wrapping foil, and you also need a food bag, and you will need a baking sheet on which to put your shaped or cut Mahamris, and I will explain later to you, or you'll see why you need that. Now over here I have the flour. I mix the dry ingredients first. I have the 3 cups of flour. I have the active rapid rise yeast. I have the sugar, and I also have the pinch of salt. Okay. Now what you do over here, I also have the dough that I already kneaded earlier. Okay. Now this has been rising. You see it's a little bit lumpy. And if you listen closely, you'll hear some bubbling, which means the yeast is active. It's doing its thing in there. Now, what feeds the yeast to make it rise like this is the sugar. So once you put the sugar, you put the coconut milk in there and the dry mixture, and you mix it with your hands. Now, if you don't like handling the dough, for whatever reason you don't like handling it with your hands, you can use your mixer and just put on the hook attachments and let it knead it for at least 15 minutes. If you're doing it with your hands, do it also at least for 15 minutes. Now, once you've kneaded the dough for at least 15 minutes, form a ball with it, and then take a knife and cut through the center of it. If you see little holes, like the appearance of bread, if you see the way bread has little holes in it, then you know that the yeast has activated and it's doing its thing. So at that point, you form the dough into a nice little ball. You will cover it in one of these. Okay, put it in something, a lid, a container that has a lid. Cover it up and let it sit at room temperature on the counter for a couple hours. I do mine overnight, and then I cook them the next morning, or I give them at least 3 to 4 hours for the yeast to make the dough rise. Now, if you would like, you can do this ahead of time. Like if you'd like to make the dough today and cook it, it could stay in the freezer for up until 2 weeks. So what you can do is knead the mixture, and then wrap it. Don't give it time to rise. Wrap it tightly in cling foil, okay? And then insert the dough that's wrapped in cling foil. Insert it into a food bag, a Ziploc bag, and then put it in the freezer. So what happens if, on the day you're ready to cook the Mahamris, you just pull them out, put them in the refrigerator, and let it sit there overnight, the night before you're ready to cook them. And then an hour before you're ready to actually start cooking them, you put it on the counter and let it completely, relax, and then it'll start rising, and then you can cut them up into shapes and go ahead and cook it. All right. Now I'll show you, using the dough that's already done, what you need to do once everything's all good and mixed up. Now you see it's all lumpy. Excuse me. Now what you do is you're going to gently give it a punch so that it deflates a little bit. That's all the carbon dioxide produced by the, you see that? It's just deflating, produced by the yeast because it's been raising for a while. It doubled in size, so you're just gonna kind of knead it and form it into a ball. It has you can smell the fermentation going on, but that doesn't make it nasty. Trust me, it tastes delicious, okay? So you're just gonna kind of roll it onto a ball. Now what I'll do is I'll lightly flour the surface where I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to separate this ball into 4 pieces, and then that 4 pieces I'm going to roll it out into a flat disc around 1/4 inch thick, and then I'm going to cut it again into 4. I'm going to quarter it again. Okay, so we're going to divide this. You can use a dough cutter or you can use your hand, whatever works for you. Okay, divide it into 4 pieces, and then you're going to form balls with each piece. See that? That's 1 ball. Second, third. I'll move this back. And then we're going to cover it up just so it doesn't dry. And then this is what we're going to use for the first one. So make sure your surface is lightly floured. Now, just as a precaution to make sure, after I knead the dough, to make sure it does not stick to the container in which I put it to rise, I kind of lightly apply some cooking oil. I use canola oil, and then apply some around the container where you let it rise. That way it doesn't stick. Like you've seen, it wasn't a problem pulling it out because I'd applied some cooking oil. So I kind of flatten it with the heel of my hand, and then we're just going to roll it out. Okay, and lightly flour your rolling pin. So the method is from the center outwards. Okay, and then you rotate it after each turn. Center out, and you're trying to achieve something around 1/4 inch thickness. You don't want it too thick because it rises again once you cook it. Okay, so you don't want it to be too thick or it might explode on you and then it won't be a perfect shape. Try and get it as round as you can, but don't sweat it if it's not a perfect circle. Okay, cooking is not supposed to be stressful. You're supposed to enjoy it. Okay, now you're looking for something around that thick. You see that? That's a perfect thickness. So now I'm going to divide this into quarters. Okay, I'm going to quarter this. Look for the center part, and you can use a pizza cutter if you have one to do this as well. Now see these quarters, we're going to fry those in the oil, and that's going to be our finished product. Okay, so I'm going to keep cutting these, and then we'll come back and I show you how to fry them. All right, so we'll be right back with you. Hi and welcome back. You're watching Stella's Mezza. Now right before the break I showed you how to knead the dough for the Mahamris, and then I showed you what thickness or what size to cut the disc into. Now I don't know if I mentioned while I was showing you what's in the dough that there's 1 teaspoon of cardamom powder finely ground in the mixture, and that gives it a nice exotic flavor. Now I wanted to show you again the thickness to which you will cut your doughs. So basically we divided the dough into 4 pieces, 4 equal pieces, and then went ahead and rolled each piece out, and then we quartered it. We cut it into 4 pieces. Now this is the thickness you're looking for. Now don't make it too thick, because if you do, they do puff up in the oil as you fry them. It's going to explode or pop up on you. So you don't want to do that. You want them to maintain their shape. And we're going to drop this in the oil. But before we do that, I'm going to show you what I did over here. What I have here is I reserved a little bit of dough just to test the heat, to see if my oil is hot already enough to fry the Mahamri. So I'm going to drop it in the oil, and I want you to look inside and see what it looks like. Now if it goes down and comes up too fast, that means the oil is too hot and your Mahamris will burn. They'll burn on the outside, but the inside will not be done all the way. So if that's the case, you need to reduce the heat on your stove. Okay, so I'm going to drop that in there, and I want you to see what happens. So you see it stays down for a little and then it comes up. That means that's perfect temperature. And that's around a little bit higher than medium. You can leave it at medium or a little bit higher than medium. So we're going to drop in the piece of dough. You can leave that in there. If it starts turning too dark, you can just take it off. So I'm going to drop in the piece of dough. What you do, you drop it away from you. You don't want it to splat on you. It's going to burn you. So you tip it in and away from you. Do the same thing. And you want to do 4 pieces at a time. That way you don't crowd the wok. You don't crowd the wok. Okay? So there you go. And then as soon as you see the one side kind of puff up like that, it's time to turn. And you're going to keep doing this. You don't want it to bust open, okay? If you see it's time to puff up, you turn. And this are the last 4. I already went ahead and did the same thing I'm doing here. You see, there's a danger there. You don't want it to break. This one is ready to turn. So as soon as I cook them, I drop it in this container that has paper towel in it, just so that the excess oil, if there's any, is absorbed into the paper, and it just doesn't sit on the mandazi or the Mahamri. Now these are also called mandazi. There are different kinds of mandazi, and this is one of the kinds of mandazis that we call Mahamri. Okay, there's another kind that I will show you in a different video. It's called the half cake mandazi. It kind of crumbles and it's really delicious, but does not have coconut milk in it. Okay, so you keep turning them just to make sure that nothing sticks. Okay, there you go. And you want a nice, beautiful golden color. Again, if you look in here, you'll see what you're looking for. Don't let them get too dark. Nice, beautiful golden color. And if for whatever reason you feel that they're cooking up too fast on you, or it's starting to look like it's burning, just go ahead and reduce the oil, but constantly turn them. That way they get evenly cooked. So it still needs to cook on that side. If you see one side getting dark, turn it over to the other side that's lighter so the other side gets cooked as well. Still need to cook that. See, that tells you that was a little bit too thick. It almost popped, but it didn't. Just keep turning them around in the oil so they get cooked nice and even. Now in my next video, I'll show you how to make mbaazi, which is traditionally eaten with this for breakfast as a breakfast meal. It's a legume that is actually it's black eyed peas. That's what we call over here, black eyed peas, and it's cooked with coconut milk, and it's delicious. It's very nutritious, protein full, and it's also for people who are vegetarians who do not like, or people who don't like to eat meat all the time. Like sometimes I get bored of eating meat, so that's an alternative for people like me. For people who, for whatever reasons, health reasons or whatever, cannot eat meat. Okay? Right, there's a couple here that are good to go. Like that's not perfectly done. You want to just kind of shake that so any excess oil drops in there, and then the rest you put in that container. And that paper will absorb any oil that drips off the Mahamri, okay? And I put that paper in there because I hate a greasy stovetop that just drives me crazy. So that's to catch any dripping oil from my strainer. And that's the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off on here. And then I already plated a couple, and I want to show you what they look like inside. My next video, you'll see what to make that's eaten with this, or you can drink with a cup of coffee or tea. Just going to put that in there, okay? Okay. Now we'll take a quick break, and I'll be right back with you to show you what the inside looks like, okay? Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back. Right before the break, I showed you how to fry the Mahamris, and then now we have the plated item, and I'm going to open one up just so you see what it looks like. It should have a slight crunch as you break it open, okay? You hear that? Look at that. And it should have a slight cavity in there, okay? And for those of you who are adventurous, I've done it before. I filled it up with coconut pastry cream, and that is delicious as well. So we're going to break one up and taste it. My favorite part. Oh, that is so good. That is so good. The crunch of the outside there's a delicate crunch to it, and you taste the cardamom and the coconut milk, and the inside is nice and tender. So this will go perfectly with a cup of tea in the morning tomorrow. So I am going to stop here, and I hope you get a chance to try this out. Do not be intimidated by the name of any of my dishes. There's nothing complicated to it. Anybody can do it. And I always want you to remember, eat and think outside the box. And join me next time as we take your taste buds on another culinary safari. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time.